My friends, hello and welcome to GoldenEye SpeedLore, the epic series where we take an in-depth look at a single stage in GoldenEye through the lens of the world record progression and tell the stories of the strategies, discoveries, and the players who made it all happen. And tonight, we're looking at a very fascinating stage, a simple level in principle with only one objective, but historically a very deep stage, one intertwined with many of the classic storylines throughout GoldenEye history. It's time, my friends, for Caverns Agent, an unbelievable level with some unbelievable speedruns. And right off the bat, we can see that this is a very simple level. Only one objective: minimize scientist casualties. And if you guys, remember this level at all playing it in the game, you'll remember that it was the last level in the, main story before Cradle. And you're often, the whole point of the level is to chase Trevelyan to an elevator that he gets on and goes to the Cradle. And then you have your final meeting place there and settle the score with Trevelyan. So this is like the chase before the showdown. Now, this is an interesting run we're going to see right off the bat. I found this run. It's a 4-minute, 20-second run by a gentleman named Fortuin on the rankings. And I just figured we'd watch a bit of it to see how maybe you would have played the level on your first ever playthrough. And Trevelyan, you could see runs away right off the bat. And you have to fight a number of guards here. And now these doors are closed. And you can see how long these doors take to open, right? It's a long time. And if you don't, the intended way to play it is to open all these doors slowly, door by door, because Trevelyan will run off through the level, and you kind of have this like pseudo confrontation at the end, but it's not really a real thing. And yeah, I mean, you're just gonna see that this runner is slowly playing through, which is cool and all that. I mean, it's amazing when you find a video like this on the rankings, because they're so useful to show the level during a lore. And now there's this big spiral up the stage, which is kind of like a signature feature on the level. And he's looking up, he's seeing if there are guards around. He might try to lure them down. And yeah, I mean, Caverns is like, it's maybe one of the cool, like, I think it's the coolest stage in GoldenEye in terms of like exploring it and seeing all this, seeing the way it plays. It like has the most depth to it as a stage. And he's just gonna proceed here. He's gonna open these big doors. And I mean, look, this is the way any of us would have played Caverns on our initial playthroughs in the 90s. And okay, we're not gonna watch the entire thing. He's gonna skip ahead. He looks like he's playing around doing some double agent type of objectives. And what's interesting here is you see that big, steel door over here. In order to get through it, you generally need a key card, which is, so it's like there's a lot of stuff you have to do on a normal playthrough of the run. And we'll see him open. Let's see if he opens the steel door here, and then he's going to probably poke ahead and get to the final confrontation with Trevelyan. Yeah, see, right there. He's got to open that big steel door. You have to find a key card for that. And then in this hallway, we're going to see there's a drone gun that's going to be shooting him. And there you go. Trevelyan's running away. The drone gun's shooting him, taking some damage. And then you just run into the lift. Oh, he let Trevelyan run in before him. I don't know this runner, but I'm imagining maybe he was going specifically for 420. Yeah, okay, so there we go. That's okay. Now I get the picture. Now I understand entirely. Oh, and you know what? his name on the rankings is Fortuin T. I get it now. So there we have it. Caverns Agent, and that's... yeah, I understand now. Okay, let's watch an actual speedrun of the level. This one's by our pal, Cory Hanson, another staple of the early SpeedLore runs that we see. And so Cory, much differently, is going to get ahead of Trevelyan early on. And now, as a result, we see that all of the doors are wide open. Wide open. And so this obviously is going to save a ton of time. You don't have to wait. Like, already the run's faster because you've gotten ahead of Trev early on. And now you don't have to wait behind all these doors as they open. So it's going to be a much more speedy run, even though it won't be quite world record pace. And a huge thanks to Cory Hanson for this one as well. You know, that's a mighty prediction speedrun news. You're seeing way into the future there. And yeah, we can see him move through the stage, taking out some guards. It's not necessary to defeat all these guards, but... there we go, avoids a back boost. Gonna run through here. The drone's gonna be firing at him. I mean... right there, we can, you know, see that the drone gun is something that a lot of newer players are going to be concerned about. But it's not a huge deal because it only, you know, does half a bar of damage. And obviously, you could see that was a really good example, actually, that you can't shoot the drone gun out while strafing. You can't do it fast enough. So instead, like, a lot of people might look at it and say, oh, it's going to give you a back boost. Why don't you just strafe and shoot the drone gun? But that's not exactly a viable strategy. It just doesn't pan out. It's faster to just ignore it. Okay, so now we understand how the level Caverns Agent is played, and it's obviously, again, very straightforward, a pure strafing level. So it's a level we're going to focus a ton on getting boosts and very clean strafe lines. Now, one of the first ever recorded records, back in 1998 when the rankings were first launched, 2 gentlemen had claimed the world record of 1 minute and 8 seconds. One of them was Stephen Schwartes, who we've talked about many times in SpeedLore. And another one was this gentleman, Josh Saunders. And I've never heard of this person, Josh Saunders, before looking into this SpeedLore. And so I thought it was kind of interesting. There's no videos of the 108s, but it was kind of cool to be like, wow, who's this? You know, a guy who even I haven't heard of with a world record on this stage. And, you know, Schwartes would then claim a 107 later on in 1998. In 1999, Wouter Jansen would come along and he would claim a 105, a 2-second untied, which is pretty remarkable, all things considered, although there is no video of that either. And a couple of familiar names would claim to have tied the 105, including, you know, Randy Buikema, Stephen Schwartes, and Karl Jobst back in November 2000. I mean, think about that for a second. You know, we're now 19 years later and Karl Jobst is still getting world records, so that's pretty crazy. And then at the very end of the year 2000, Sterling Neblett would claim a 104. Here we go, December 29, untied world record when set. That being said, there was still no video. It's still really early in history, and not too many videos survive. Just like literature and human history, you know? These things don't make it over time. Another gentleman, Ben Gorman, in April 2001, he would become the 5th person to tie Caverns 104. He had a video, and let's give this video a watch to see a speedrun. Paragon X9. And we see him running, gets a boost there. Really nice. good start. This is obviously cleaner than, you know, the 121 or the 108s. And, you know, he starts out in left strafe, he switches to right strafe, and now he's strafing up the spiral. And, I mean, it's no secret, anyone who's played Nintendo 64 knows that the geometry in the games, you know, you want to make it circular, but you have to do it kind of through straight lines. So, you see him kind of follow the lines, push in, and he's always trying to turn back into the line as soon as it appears. And there's a second boost, a third boost, a back boost. That looked like another back boost. So 3 forwards and 2 backs. We call it a 3-2 ratio. 4-2 ratio, that's in our forward boost. A back boost there, 4-3. And he's in at 4 forward boosts, 3 back boost, 4-3 ratio. 1-0. I mean, I'll take his word for it that it was a 104. We can't really see that there. And so through 2001, a number of people would tie the 104, including, again, our pal Karl Jobst, as well as a number of other classic leaders. Some who I have mentioned in other episodes, you know, Greg Lavery, Matthias Tenholm. Another guy, Harvey Manhood, is on the list as getting 104. Harvey Manhood, I think we still don't know if that name was for sure legitimate, but a lot of classic names from back in the day. But of course, 2001 was the era of the absolute legend himself, Wouter Jansen. And Wouter, you know, was the first guy to really try to drive home and optimize some of these speedruns. And this is a really good speedrun, and it's so good, in fact, that this run is dedicated to our SpeedLore champion, 4-Day Bender. Thanks for supporting SpeedLore on Patreon. This run is dedicated to you by Wouter Jansen from August 2001. And we see him run out of the room there. Like, a common technique is to shoot as soon as you exit the lift, just to try to cause chaos, and so the guards will run around, and Trevelyan may get stuck on those guards. And because if Trevelyan has a clean, like, he will start running the moment he sees you. And so if he starts running cleanly, he's gonna go to the doors before you. You're gonna have to restart the run. I don't have any runs queued up tonight where, actually, you know what? I think I will. I think you'll be able to see later on just how you reset the start of a Caverns level. And I think we're at a 1-0 ratio here. 2-0 ratio, a boost through the drone tunnel. And we've got a Caverns 103, a new untied world record, and an amazing speedrun. And yeah, Ilu mentioned something really interesting here with this guard on the spiral. This was like a huge point of contention back in the day, that guard. We didn't know, like, should you run on the right side of him? Should you try to squeeze from the left side of him, which is kind of hard, and you would fail a lot of runs by getting stuck behind him? Should you try to shoot him and go through him? And it's kind of funny because, like, it really doesn't matter. Like, later on we'd find out that this doesn't matter all that much. It doesn't affect your speed at all. It's like less than 1/10 of a second either way, any of these 3 options. But back then, like, we honestly thought, oh, it's impossible to get this 103 tied record unless unless you squeeze to the left of this guard. So it's really crazy how, like, you believe a lot of, like, silly myths back in the day, and you obviously learn what's true and what's not true. And yeah, I mean, of course, the another huge important point on Caverns Agent is this tunnel. There's a drone in there. It will usually back boost you. But if you get forward boosted, that's, you know, obviously way, way better. That's a swing of, you know, 0.6 seconds. He gets a third boost into the lift, and it ends up being a 103. Pretty good stuff. Now, there was something, I almost actually forgot this at the time, when I was putting together this lore, but around the same time, 2001, late 2001, early 2002, our pal Jimbo, who, you know, we often talk about Jimbo in SpeedLore episodes, he was 13 years old at the time, and he claimed not on the Elite, on game FAQs, that he had achieved Caverns Agent 102, an untied world record, beating Wouter's 103. As it turned out, he did not achieve 102. It was a complete lie, and as a result, he was sort of like, not really banned from the Elite, but like, you know, they kind of agreed, you know what, Jimbo, you can't join for like another year until you're, you know, 14, at least a little bit older and a little bit wiser. So that was kind of funny. And it's interesting that, like, they determined that the 102 was fake, because this next claim, Caverns Agent 103 by Ben Southward, was never proven either. And this was another eliter. He had a few decent times back in the day, but nothing, you know, too incredible, too historic, except for this claim that he was the first person to tie Caverns Agent 103. No video, and it was a highly contentious claim. A lot of people didn't want to believe it. Wouter's record had stood for 6 months, but it was the era where people just kind of were like, you know what, yeah, 103 is possible. I guess we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I guess we'll rank this time. And it's kind of crazy now looking back, like 17 years later. Did he achieve his time? Did he not? And that's exactly true, JD Black, is he claimed that he had skipped from 105 to 103, which is, like, that's a pretty big claim, but it's obviously possible that he did it. It's possible. Again, why was it determined that Jimbo's claim of 102 wasn't possible? I don't know, and you'd have to ask the guys who made that determination all the way back then. And, you know, let's move on a little bit to November 2005. And, you know, as we can see here, over the next 3 years, you know, people are familiar with this era in GoldenEye history. A lot of boss records, some Wouter records still. 103 is becoming one of the more common records. It's looks like the third most common record at this time. You know, behind Runway Secret Agent 23 and Depot Agent 26. And, you know, it looks like 18 people have it. You know, and at this time, there were a few new players coming along. Remember? I think that's a bingo card, you know? I joined the rankings at this time. You can see that I have Depot 26. You know, Perfect Ace was playing Perfect Dark. You know, Clemens was about to join. But another guy who joined around this time was Luke Szklarz. And Luke Szklarz was an interesting guy because he was ranked like in the 70s, 60s, 70s. But there were a few times he got that were pretty good. And you don't quite see them in this screenshot. But he would get the occasional, like, pretty decent record. And one of the records he showed a lot of potential on was this Caverns Agent 103. And he really, really took a strong liking to Caverns. So let's watch this run and kind of see what we can glean out of it. Yeah, I know it is. What can you say? This is it's a little bit like Rutzou Vision. We have more Rutzou Vision coming, that's for sure. We saw Luke, defeat the guard on the spiral there, and run sort of through his old path. And Luke's strafing, you can make it out that it is even cleaner. It's kind of more smooth around the spiral than on some previous runs. So Luke's got this down pat. There's a back boost. Yep. And let's see him carry this out. So he's 0-1 right now. Remember, Wouter had 3 boosts to get 103. Keep strafing, and a boost into the elevator. So really a 1-1 ratio run. And it is going to be a Caverns Agent 103, which is like, that's really, really insane. Because you think about it, Wouter had 3 boosts. You know, a boost saves about 1/3 of a second, so that's about a second saved. Luke's run is 1-1, so it's like a full second lost compared to Wouter's run. And it was still a 103. Now, I believe this was not Luke's first 103. It certainly wasn't. Luke, he's always been such an interesting character, and he decided, you know what, I want to really go for 102. I want to make something. I want to make a name for myself in this game. And again, he was ranked, 60th, 70th. And he spent hours and hours and hours going for Caverns 102. And it was like this really crazy quest to follow, because he stopped playing the rest of the levels, and like all he did was focus on Caverns 102. I mean, yeah, what a screenshot this is. This is from March 2006. This is a pretty wild time. Some good Untitled Stoops here. But as you can see now, Ilu, myself, Luke, have jumped on the Caverns 103 train. So Luke would play a ton on Caverns, and he get a bunch of really insane runs. And this one is absolutely mad. Count the boosts in this run, guys. Because, like I said, most people like Wouter, and pretty much anyone else would want 3 boosts to get Caverns 103, maybe even 4 boosts, maybe 5 boosts. That's kind of where the strafing was at on this level. But I mean, look at how cleanly strafed this run is. This is unbelievable. Look at this strafing. It's like you can tell. You can really see how good that strafing is. Still no boosts. Looks like even a bump on the guard there might have cost a couple frames. Super clean strafing. Is he gonna boost there? No boost. And running through running through the drone tunnel, no boosts in the lift, and it is a Caverns Agent 103. 0-0 boost ratio, which is like actually unbelievable. Like it even to this day, it's like an unbelievable record. 0 boost run. And Luke was getting tons of these runs. I was looking up some old posts. Here's one from April 06. That's when he got a 1-1 ratio, Caverns 103. The first Caverns 103 that had, not a positive boost ratio. Most of them had, like, with boost ratios, it does get a bit, like, the jargon, gets a bit unfamiliar, right? So if Wouter had a 3-0 boost ratio, you could say he had +3 boosts, right? He had 3 more boosts than back boosts. If you had like a 1-4 boost ratio, you'd have a -3. A 1-1 is, a 0, an even boost ratio. And so that's what, Luke's posting that he had that. Here Luke's posting that, like, now he's up to 43 Caverns 103s. Oh man, I think 102 will happen. Even his dad thinks 102 will happen. But he needs a break. Now he's played, 55 total Caverns 103s. Playing 5 hours of Caverns Agent was, that was a lot back in the day. Now he says, I've decided that after 102 appears on my screen, I'll make a tour video and then break my GoldenEye cartridge. That's some heavy words. Like, you can tell that this means this much to him, that he really wants Caverns 102. and that it would mean the world to him. It would mean enough where he would retire from GoldenEye after it. And then here he is in May, and he's like, 102 didn't happen. My life has been crazy the last 2 weeks. I got exams. I still want to get it, unless, Wouter or Ryan manages to get it. And, I mean, what you can see here, Luke's like 17, 16 years old at the time. He's getting frustrated with speedrunning. I think we've all been there at that age. And, I mean, these are, like, going through these old Luke posts was really interesting. Because, like, yeah, seeing the way the forums were back in 06, this kind of, a lot of times Luke, his old posts, he was, congratulating other fellow newcomers in the game. He said, always was encouraging towards me. Here I'm going for streaks 00155 back in the day and things like that. And, yeah, I mean, it was just such an innocent time, and seeing his encouraging posts, took me back to a really, I don't know, yeah, a nostalgic, a nice time. So, yeah, cheers for seeing those old posts, Luke. That was good stuff. Luke would keep playing, and he would get this speed run, and of course, like, count the boost in this run, guys. This is insane. But he would always put music in his. We all did put music in our videos, because a lot of times the devices that would record video back then wouldn't also record audio, so it was like, you might as well put a music track in. And he would always use these kind of like indie rock folk type songs. I think Bell and Sebastian was like one of his favorite bands, and so that's the kind of music he'd put in. I don't know exactly which one is in this, but yeah, it was, it's, everyone kind of had their own unique style. Well, not everyone. I would put in kind of these crazy, Euro dance hits. Most people would put in Linkin Park, right? But Luke had this kind of very indie vibe to his stuff. There's a back boost by the drone in the lift, and it is a Caverns 103, now with an 0-1 ratio. Like, that is just unbelievable that such a thing was even possible. And, like, it's really crazy that he hadn't got 102 with all these runs. It is really, really crazy, because he's obviously become the best player in Caverns Agent history at the time. Like, you wonder how different the history of GoldenEye would have been if only he had gotten 102. And remember, he said that once he got 102, he would make a tour video and then break his cartridge. Well, I guess he determined that the 0-1 ratio Caverns 103 was about as close as it was going to get, so he figured, you know what, 0-1 Caverns 103, now's the time for the tour video. And we can see his room, full of these kind of like band posters, in a lot of indie band stuff. And I mean, these tour videos were kind of rare back in the day. A few people did them, but it was such a different time. Like, nowadays, like, it's a very popular thing on YouTube videos to give a house tour, or even just on Twitch you get the insight into someone's life, into someone's room, right? I mean, right now you guys are seeing my room, So, but back then we didn't have this stuff, and it was really all text and avatars on a screen. And so getting these rare insights into people's lives was really cool. There's Bell and Sebastian, there's Coldplay tickets, The Strokes, and he's just kind of showing us stuff, and you can see the ticket there was August 2006. I don't have a date for this video, but clearly it was after August 2006. It really is a time capsule. Like, it's unbelievable how cool it is, And just people who weren't around on the internet at the time, maybe they'll never kind of understand getting that first glimpse into someone's life that you might have spent a year talking to online. And so it's certainly, yeah, it's it's cool stuff. But he wouldn't get the 102. And so, yeah, we'll take a look here. We're now in November 07. So this is even a year after Luke has now sort of given up on going for Caverns 102. He got the 01. Like, and so, you know, think about that, right? Wouter has most people have 3.0 boost ratio 103s. Luke's been able to get it with 01. A 4 boost difference. Surely, if you were to strafe as well as Luke did and get 3 boosts, 102 is possible. And at this point, I think Luke had gone off to university, and you can see a couple LSs here, you know, Dan 53, Service 1 103. He was still ranked like 60th, but he was pretty much done with GoldenEye. And while not quite, he would be fully done after this speedrun by Bryan Bosshardt in November 2007. So Boss is shooting a bit there. He might be trying to lure boosts. There's 2 boosts. That's a good head start on any on these recent Luke runs. Let's see him strafe the spiral. He shoots the guard there. His strafing's pretty decent. I mean, Boss is really good at GoldenEye. You know, that's for damn sure. Strafing up the spiral. He's at 2-0. Already 3 boosts ahead of Luke's craziest 103. There's 3-0. He's got a 4 boost advantage. 5 boost advantage to 4-0. And I mean, that 5 boosts, that's like 1.5 seconds on paper. So if his strafing is anywhere near Luke's, he's 5 boosts. Now he's 6 boosts up. There's 1 back boost. So a 5-1 ratio. Caverns Agent 102. And I mean, you can understand in a lot of ways just how... I mean, I've been there. It is crushing to have spent so much time going for a record and put so much of your, like, career on the line with that record. And to have someone else beat you to it. It is crushing. And it was even more crushing because, you know, at that time you would post in the world record topic. It was like your great announcement of when you got the record. Because, you know, it would take a while to make a video. And Boss posted an image. The image has been deleted. It must have been uploaded to like PhotoBucket or some defunct place. But it looked like this. This is what Boss posted in the world record topic. And, you know, the writing in MS Paint was like so troll that it tilted Luke off the face of the planet. And Luke was pretty much done with GoldenEye after that point. After seeing that Caverns 102. Yeah. Time was untied when set. What a classic moment in speedrunning history. So Boss would crack the code, get Caverns 102. Luke would pretty much retire at the time. Of course, at this time, we're now late 2007, guys like Clemens and Ace were in the picture. So Clemens would tie 102 in the same month that Boss got it, November 07. Ace would tie 102 in early 08. Ilu would get it. And then, you know, another familiar gentleman would get a speedrun that was really... I mean, this was shocking. So shocking, in fact, that this run has to be dedicated to a SpeedLore champion. This one goes out to Cory M. Thanks for supporting SpeedLore. But this was in 2008, and it was none other than Wouter Jansen with a Caverns 102. And it's really surprising because this is now several years after Wouter had last achieved an untied world record. Like, this is probably one of Wouter's last, like, 5 world records in GoldenEye history. And so it is kind of out of place for Wouter to get a world record in 2008. It is past his era, and it's certainly worth showing here. And yet, as Ace points out, you'll notice that ammo is not anywhere to be seen. Usually you would see like 32, bullets for whatever, 108 ammo. There's 2 boosts. There is an in-game option to turn off ammo off screen. He's now at 3-0. And looks like 4-0 there, yep. And it's sort of somewhat believed that that might, like, reduce lag slightly. So it might, like, be beneficial to turn ammo off if you don't need it on. But there is Wouter, Jansen's 102, a 4-1 ratio, pretty good. And I think something you're going to notice, actually, is that on a lot of the 103s, people didn't get back boosted in the tunnel. But now on the 102s, people are getting back boosted in the tunnel. And that's not something we would really understand or piece together at the time. We'll look at the rankings, July 2011. This is now 3 years after Wouter's 102. We can see a few more people have joined the party. Glenn Stevens, he's a really good mate, a good Australian mate. Hung out with Karl a number of times. His 102 was apparently first try, one of his stronger proven records in history. Marc Rutzou's in the mix. Here I am, and here's Jimmy Bauer. And the thing about my 102 and Jimmy Bauer's 102 is we're going to watch them, but the other 102s were set using 1.2 control style. In 2010, the 2.x control styles were revealed to be beneficial, and they were saving about 0.3 seconds on most levels because you could start the mission at full speed. And we will talk about it a bit more in depth later on. But on Caverns, it even went a little bit further, and you're going to see why in a second. I'm going to show my run here in a second. This one is actually a remarkable speedrun that's dedicated to our SpeedLore champion, Mr. Moxie. Thanks for supporting SpeedLore on Patreon. And this is actually one of the very few records that I've achieved from inside the cozy cabin by the fireplace. This was set in June 2010. I was up there working all summer long, and I set up my TV up there, and you don't have your comfortable setup. You don't have your desk in front of you. And so I believe I got this time sitting on the floor on a pillow to make it a little bit more comfortable with a TV in front of me. And, I mean, there was no webcam capture Irish Bub back in 2010. This is before Twitch, but watch this run and see what we do here. So now we're watching the cutscene. You hear that? I was able to open the door before gaining control of Bond, because with the 2.x control styles, all of the actions on the second controller are operational in the cutscenes. So not only am I charging full speed by moving on that control stick, on the second control stick, but I can also press B to open the door a little bit in advance. So now I can save even more than 0.3 seconds on Caverns Agent. And we're going to see I would use that to my benefit here. And yeah, I think I was sitting cross-legged on the floor going for this record. Let's see if I get a nice boost there. And you may also be able to notice that this is like clearly looks different. There's a different... It's not only cinema screen, Sammy. It's also 16:9. It's like everything I do, I always try to give it a slightly unique spin, And my speedrunning is no different. And so I would play with widescreen 16:9. Not cinema, widescreen 16:9. And then it almost certainly, we would later learn, would lose me time from lag. I got out of it by playing PAL at Age 82 2014. Cinema, no widescreen is how I got out of it, so. Look at that little stuck, but a boost forward. in. So 2 boosts with a tiny little stuck. Caverns Agent 102 using the 2.x control style. And let's watch Jimmy Bauer's run. It's going to be very similar. But we're going to see again. So, you could see him strafe right behind Trevelyan there. There are so many possible scenarios for things going on in the first room. Sometimes Trevel runs circles and you get through him cleanly without even like bumping into him. Sometimes you're kind of really riding his coattails there, getting out just behind him. A lot of times he'll block you, other guards will block you, you'll have to reset. All sorts of, the majority of runs. So that first room is very pivotal, you gotta get out of it cleanly. But it's so early you can just reset and try it over again a million times. We still have no boost on this Jimmy Bauer run, there's one. I mean, you can see now, Boss had 5-1 ratio for his 102. And, mine was 2-0 with a minor stuck. Looks like Jimmy's gonna be 2-0, maybe 2-1. 2-1. I had to crank that music for you guys there. I know you guys are loving the elevator music in chat. Caverns Agent 102. And so yeah, here we are in July 2011. This is now a year after I got 102. And I think that's very important to point out. Jimmy Bauer also got his 102 in 2010. And we're a year later and now no one else has 102. And we've kind of shown, we've demonstrated, guys, like, look how much easier it is to get 102 now. Instead of needing 5 boosts and an insanely godly run like Boss got, you only need 2 boosts and use the 2.x control style. But we were kind of in a dead era of GoldenEye where people weren't like... There weren't too many great... look at the rankings, right? Look at some of the uncommon times. There really aren't any. It's all Ace, Marc, Clemens, a bit of Boss still. Even the Lou's kind of waning out. A couple one-offs, like these Cliff Hampton ones on some grenade levels. You see guys like Isa Smith, Alex Anderson. There aren't too many guys out there aside from like the top tier of guys. There's a few Ryan Lockwoods here on Egypt, but it's just the top 4 or 5 guys, maybe 6, 7 if you want to include myself and Lou, and Wouter. But people aren't really pushing the edges of the game at this point. Like, if this happened in the modern era, 50 people would have got Caverns 102 when it was a cake-free world record. Because it really was. You just put in the 2 controllers, start at full speed, that's 0.3, open the door before get control bond, that's another 0.2 probably. 102 is free, and still nobody would go for it. There was no one to go for it. But what someone would go for is... Look, like I said, there's these top guys around. Clemens, Ace, Marc. And I guess one of them had enough and said, you know what? I'm going to push Caverns hard. I have 102. Let's see if I can get 101. Let's see. Well, my friends, it's time to show a speedrun from none other than Marc Rutzou, Marcus Striker. And in July 2011... he would get this speedrun. Yeah, so this isn't actually Marc's 101 on Caverns Agent. This is Ace reenacting as if it were Marc's 101 on Caverns Agent. The video quality was so bad that you could not make it. It was worse than even his, damn speedruns, which is saying a lot. At the time he got it, it was accepted and went on the rankings, but it wouldn't, remain on the rankings for very long. And I mean, yeah, we're in an era when most of his speedruns, look like this, and his Caverns Agent was even worse than this. And it was so bad, in fact, that Marc removed the video, and it is actually a lost video. Nobody has Marc's Caverns 101. No one's been able to dig it up in the years since it's been removed from the internet. But he did. We saw it in terrible quality, so he got it in July 2011. Luckily, it was an era where Marc, Ace, and Clemens were just beating each other up all the time, and so, Clemens was there to go for this run, and it sounds like a left ear to me, so let's give a watch. Again, shooting to lure a boost. I mean, honestly, I didn't know when those boost lures were first used. I thought they were a pretty recent innovation, but this is now 2011 and Clemens is doing them, so. Really good spiral strafing. Very smooth. Ooh, that's an interesting choice to defeat that guard. A boost 2-0. Again, if you can get 3 or 4-0, you probably got a shot at 101 at this point. There's 3-0. If that guard does that animation, you'll always get a boost. No back boost. Really clean entry, 3-0 ratio. Caverns Agent 101. A truly remarkable speedrun, wasn't it? And Marc and Clemens would get this 101 in July 2011, and it would remain in MRDC time for years to come. Years to come. 2012, 2013, as we all know, though, right? 2012 was the year where Twitch sort of blew up. I know it started in like 2011, but 2012 was when Twitch really started to grow, and a lot of old and retired eliters would start to come back to the game. And well, one of them was Luke Szklarz. And after all those years, he came back. He saw that, it was cool. The community had been rejuvenated by all these streams and videos and all this entertaining stuff. And Luke would come back and really grind hard and play a lot. And he would rise up the ranks from the 60s, the 70s, all the way into the top 10. And on his way up, in April 2014, he would get this speedrun. I mean, and it is really crazy when you really think how this level caused him to retire basically for so many years. And now he's back and in action. And that was, look how clean, you saw how clean that first room was. He wasn't even bumping on Trevelyan at all. Not one bit. Ooh. Now that we have better quality, we can, after this run's done, I'm going to go back and have you guys listen for something that's kind of interesting or noteworthy for sure. And I mean, Luke's the master of all time at this level, at the spiral. I might pull up another run. I was thinking of showing this run. I think I will actually now. I'll dig it up just to show differences in the spiral strafing. Luke's at 2-0. 3-0. No back boost. A 4 boost. 4-0. Yeah, I mean, that's... The warp could have been like a frame faster. But that is a very, very good speedrun. Caverns Agent 101. Okay. So the thing with the first door in this level... Ding. Most doors in GoldenEye, not all of them, but most of them, once you open them, they will close on a timer. On a consistent timer. And this one makes a big ding sound when it closes. So, we can use the moment the door closes to determine our pace. You hear it? You hear where it dinged? And since it dings on the spiral, we can kind of count how many of the linear curve lines up the spiral we are to determine our pace. So Luke was kind of at, like, exactly 4, right? You're like, okay, here's the first one, right? He's going with the first one. Now he's on the second one. Now he's going up there's the third straight line. He's, like, pretty much at the 4th line up the curve. Now, if we go back and watch Wouter's Caverns 103 from back in the day... Listen to where the ding is on this run. He's at, like, the second curve line. Like... Right? Like, there's the first curve. At the end of the second one, it will hit the ding. And think about this. With 2.x control style, you open the elevator even before... You open it a little bit early before you get control of bond. Maybe 0.2 before you would normally open it. And, like, think about that stacking on top of each other, how he's 2 full, lines up the spiral where you get the ding. So you can see how much better of a start Luke had than Wouter's 103. And now, there is a run I'm going to grab here, if it's still on the rankings. Wow, this guy has 102 now, which is shocking, but I remember his 103 vividly. And I think this is not a guy who I've shown in a lore episode before, but I'm going to show now. And he was a very good friend of mine back in the day. Greg Larkin. In late 06, he got Caverns 103. It was huge for him. Because he was, again, not a top player. He was like 70th or 80th. Let's watch his run. And let's focus on where the ding is. Oh, there's no ding. That's super disappointing. But we can see he's all in left strafe. He got a boost already. Switches to right strafe there. That was a big thing back in the day, is like, where do you switch strafes? No one went all right strafe. Okay, watch his spiral. It's like the most jagged spiral possible. And it's like, looking back, it's almost like cute or endearing how jagged this spiral is. Because, again, he was not a top player, but it's like, the fact he still managed at 103 on a run like this is like, it does warm your heart. That even guys who obviously might not have the natural skill of a Luke or an Ace or a Marc or a Clemens or a Boss or so on. Hey, sometimes if luck's on their side, they get some really good boosts. They can too get world records. A nice 3-0 run. 4-0 through the drone hall. And yeah, when he got 103, it was a good time. Yeah, that was cool. So let's take a look at where we are now. Oh man, we've skipped ahead. We've skipped ahead a good deal. We're almost 2 years after Luke's 101 now. Ace has joined the party, and Lotus has joined the party. Caverns 101. Mid 2016. We're 3 years ago from the current date. And nothing would even happen on this level for another little while. Another couple of years. In early 2017, Dan Swiss Parker would join the party and get Caverns 101. And then, like, for some insane reason, I honestly don't know. I was, like, thinking about this before I streamed today. I was like, why did I start playing Caverns Agent? Because it's a really good record. And it's like the top 5 players have it. I was like, I feel like I almost started playing it as a meme, you know? I was like, I decided, you know what? Like, I'm going to play it. When you're streaming a speedrun game, you have to sort of go for times that are exciting to your viewers, right? You really do. You can't just play any random level. You have to play exciting levels, and I must have just thought, you know what? I'm just going to go for Caverns 101. I probably won't get it. Whatever. At least I'll give my chat something to believe in. Something for them to, you know, oh, is Goose going to get this insane record? Only tie the top guys. Haha, yeah, right. You can see me messing up the opening there. Yeah, I honestly don't know what inspired me to play. But I spent probably 2 weeks on this level, and I wasn't getting Caverns 101. A much better player than myself, Karl Jobst, would, however, play Caverns. Let's watch his run. Beautiful strafing, beautiful first room, getting a boost, almost a second boost. Listen for the ding. 2, 3. He's at 4. He's roughly at 4, which is really good. And Karl would kind of come up with some innovations that would help out a lot of people. Especially at the top of the spiral here. Yeah, a good 4 spiral ding. I mean, Karl just sees the game, you know? He really does just see it. There's a boost. There's another boost where he's at 3-0. You see, it says, see what he did there? 4-0. No back boost. Caverns Agent 101, and yes, indeed, Karl. Again, this had been theorized. A lot of the tool-assisted speedrunners did it, but this boost here on the box was huge, and for a long time, people figured it would make more sense to shoot the box with the assault rifle because it shoots faster. It would be more likely to give you a boost, but what it actually did is oftentimes the assault rifle would like lag the game and the box would blow up and not have an explosion, which, you know, that you're not gonna get a boost if there's no explosion, right? So that would often happen. And Karl figured if I shoot with the ZMG there instead, it's much more consistent. And it worked out really well, and I didn't care to do it. I thought, oh, I'm going to go for 101 without it. But Karl got 101 like this, and he would really convince me. He would really convince me to start using the box boost. And again, notice how on these 101s, you're not getting back boosted from the drone in the drone hall. But on 102s, you are. It is something to keep in mind. Now, at this point, it's now August 18. So Karl got the 101 a little bit before me. August 6th, he got it. Henrik got 101 on August 13. August 18, now we're like, you know, two or 3 weeks into the grind for Caverns 101. And I would finally get this run. Let's take a look. Yeah, but like, I don't know what to say, man. those shots, again, I didn't know Clemens invented those shots there. Crazy to see that in hindsight. I thought it was like a Karl innovation, these boost lures.
It wouldn't be a subscription if you didn't get paid for it.
So there's one boost. In chat, I was, our pal Hidaquita was asking me if streamers get paid from Twitch Prime subs, which, you know, hey, not everybody knows, but that's what I was responding to in that clip. We're at a 1-0 ratio.
Amazon eats the loss as a
that was about a 4 dinger.
benefit of you being a Prime member.
I think Boss used one of those lures in the 102, not both of them. But I know what you're saying. So yeah, so this is like getting to be record pace. We're 1 boost here. The spiral's reasonable. See, that guard with the AR coming at you can usually give you boost. He did on Karl's run, but I could never, like, eke it out. 3-0.
Oh! Woo! Yeah, baby! Caverns Agent 101. You like that?
And so, yes, I had my Chimera controller taped to my leg. And, you know, what a better time than ever to explain the Chimera. You know, I'd have to do it someday, and I mean... So, what is the Chimera? Why did I have two controllers taped to my leg? Well, look. When you're playing GoldenEye with a 2.x control style, it is awkward, and some people will simply, I say they're kind of freeballing, they're holding one controller in each hand. It's kind of uncomfortable. I mean, I guess the Nintendo Switch, you do it with like the Joy-Cons, you have 2 individual controllers, but they're small, they fit in your hands. N64 controllers do not. So some people manage to play like that anyways, but what I would do is I would tape my 2 controllers together. I have it reenacted in this image. So you can see they're taped at the lower handle there, and on one of the controllers, the second controller, which controls the strafe, I have a rubber band holding the direction of the strafe. Now on Caverns, you're holding it to the right, so the rubber band would actually be around another handle on the other side of the controller. But the principle is pretty much the same. You basically are duct taping the controllers together to make one big controller, right? One really big controller. And the rubber band is to control strafe. And then what you do with the first controller, the non-rubber banded one, is you can use the stick to strafe around, change the direction of your strafe, and shoot, and open doors, and so on. And it plays somewhat naturally. Now, ideally, on a level where you don't have to change strafe ever, a level like Streets or Caverns Agent, what you could simply do, and what would make it easier, is if the second controller was not attached to the first one. You took the second controller, you just set it up, you had your controller, you set up the movement, put the rubber band, it was holding strafe, you put it down and you forget about it. This is what you do on Streets, by the way. And so it's holding right strafe the whole time, and you take the first controller, that's the second one, and you play it as if you're playing normally, and the second one's doing all the strafing. And that's ideally what you do. Another aspect to keep in mind is that on the second controller, you often want it to have what you call a GameCube style stick, or a Hori style stick, you want to have a stick that like really has the full range of the N64's control movements. Most people only have one or two of those sticks, okay? So, I built what I call the Chimera. My GameCube style stick was in that Chimera as the second controller, right? It all's making sense. The thing is, it is unwieldy to be holding these two controllers if you don't have to. Some people are really good at it. You know, I prefer to hold one controller. So what I decided to do, I didn't want to take apart my Chimera, because it actually is really hard to duct tape it all together and have everything like stiffly in place. It's hard to make one of these effectively. Okay? So I don't want to take it apart just so I can play one level and have to reassemble it later. I decided to do this. Okay? The first controller, the green one in this picture, is no longer plugged in. The blue one takes its place as the first controller. The second controller remains the gray one. It has the GameCube stick that's rubber banded to right strafe. On Caverns, it's slightly more complicated than playing Streets, because you have to press B to open the door, right? At the beginning of the level. Now, what was challenging for me is I didn't want to like press B and have to throw the controller away and then grab the blue one, the first one, and play each run individually like that, right? That's like, it gets insane to, I mean, it gets insane compared to what you just saw. I'm just laughing because my solution was pretty insane as well. It's like, it's difficult to be like, oh, I have two controllers, I gotta press B on one, then drop it, throw it away, and then grab the first one and play. That's tough. So the solution I came up with was, I would take the Chimera, which is now controllers 2 and 3, I would tape it to my leg, okay? So I could have easy access to it, it wouldn't fall anywhere. I'd have the first controller in my hand, and then all I had to do was press one button on my leg at the beginning of the stage to open the door, and then I could easily go and hold the first controller. It's right there. Press B on my leg, like wearable technology. A lot of tech companies are doing this stuff now. I just managed to figure out with an N64 controller, you know, tape it to my leg, press B on my leg, hold the first controller, and play. And this was a much less unwieldy method than playing with 3 controllers or playing only with the Chimera. Look, it is crazy and convoluted. I hope you guys can understand. But that's that. So you're seeing 2 controllers, the Chimera, taped to my leg there. What you're not seeing is the first controller, the movement controller, the one I would use to change the direction of the strafe and open doors and shoot with. That's somewhere else off camera in that image. But yes, that is why I taped the Chimera to my leg. So what's interesting, Styroplasm, is that both controllers pressing B opens a door. But only on the second controller does it work in the opening cutscene. You see? So you have to use the second controller for the actions in the cutscenes, beginning or ending. But the first one, if you press B while you're actually playing it, it still works out. So yeah, that was just... Look, it was unbelievable, and it was a lot of fun to come up with that solution, and also use Karl's advice to win and get Caverns Agent 101. A truly remarkable speedrun strategy. I agree. Like I said, Karl and Henrik got 101 before me, but I did eventually get 101. It was fun, it was a great time. After I got the 101, we partied all night long, right? I played the mashup between Bon Jovi, It's My Life, and Venu Malesh, It's My Life. We had a great time. It was a huge... I mean, though, I know, I see the comments in chat like, oh, Goose, we miss your streams. They were fun times, guys. Maybe we'll get back to them someday. Maybe. It was a great night. Now, I got this record on August 18th, 2017. Some of you will remember, 3 days later was the Great Solar Eclipse of America. Huge astronomical event in American history. I traveled for that event to Kansas City to visit a number of leaders and hopefully take in the eclipse. Clemens was there, Boss was there, and it was hosted by Graviton, a fairly new leader at that point in time. We met up with, we hung out. Unfortunately, we got clouds the night of the eclipse, so we couldn't, or the day of the eclipse, of course. It's a solar eclipse, it's not at night. We didn't see the eclipse. Hugely disappointing. But the whole time, Grav was keeping a secret from us. A huge secret. We went, and Grav was like, hey, and Clem, hey, Goose, you got Caverns 101. It was amazing. What a fun stream that was. Yeah, man. And we played a whole bunch of GoldenEye and Doom that weekend, and we had a good time despite not seeing the eclipse. 2 months later, the boys, Jono, Luke, Swiss, Green, revealed their Capap 3, the 3rd installment of their Unhorde. And shockingly, there was a speedrun from Graviton in that Unhorde. And this is that speedrun. He had a little bump on Trev. It looks like 2 boosts there's really nice. Wait for the ding. That was like 4.5, almost 5. That was pretty unbelievable. Is that a 2-0 ratio? What was mine, a 3-0 ratio? Box boost, 3-0. Caverns Agent 101. And Grav actually got this time before Karl or Henrik or myself. And Grav claims that he actually came up with the box boost independently from Karl. Now, he may have gotten the idea because I was streaming it, or he might have even got this before I started streaming the level. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting how both Grav and Karl were going for the box boost, and Grav was doing it, like, in isolation without streaming or letting anyone know because he was hoarding it. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. You know what? I didn't know that, Jazz, that Swiss's 101 was in Capap 3. But that doesn't make sense because when I was going for it, I only had 4 people written out as having it originally, right? When I first started going for it, it was Clemens, Luke, Ace, Lotus. And that does make sense. You know, Swiss got it earlier in the year. One very interesting thing that Grav noticed was, you know, I kind of alluded to this throughout the night, is that on 101 pace runs, you don't get back boosted by the drone. On the 102 pace runs, if you look at Boss's 102, you know, you do get back boosted. And so, as it turns out, the drone, you can kind of see it even. It's kind of like on this, like, cycle, like, shooting back and forth, you know, from right? anything that's on a cycle in GoldenEye can be manipulated. I shouldn't say anything, but most things can be manipulated by timing the opening cutscene, right? Since the cycle is active throughout, it's like set to the timer of starting the mission and loading the cutscene, or loading the item. If you wait an extra second, it'll be offset. So what a lot of people were struggling with 101 was that it's like, if your run was 103 pace, you would often, the cycle of the drone would miss you. It'd be like shooting over to the side and then move away from you as you're moving through the tunnel. On 102, you're a little bit faster, so you're catching the cycle where the drone hits you and gives you a back boost there. So on 102 runs, even if it's like a low, let's say it's a low 102 run, or even a high 101, you're hitting the cycle so that the drone is going to back boost you there, right? You see, yeah, it's like certainly low 102, mid 102, high 102. The drone will back boost you. So it's like, let's say you're on a low 102 run, you get the back boost, well now it's a mid 102, and now you've duped 102, you see? So it doesn't work out. It makes 101 have to be like a really solid mid 101 to get ahead of that drone cycle, avoid the back boost, and get to the lift. Now there were times where you might get lucky and get boosted through that area, which would help avoid the back boost, but generally speaking, 103 no boost, no back boost, 102 back boost, 101 no back boost. You don't want to look down in the hallway because it's like there's a weird thing with Bond's spacing where if you look down, you're kind of pushed away from the wall slightly, and so you're more in the middle, and you like will get back boosted if you look down in that hallway, which is kind of interesting. You notice pretty much the entire ending of Caverns, you don't look down. It's not a big enough difference in lag to make an influence. So what Grav decided is that, oh, okay, I can improve consistency here if I watch 1 second of the opening cutscene. 1 second, like everyone watches the Bond lift one, but if he watches 1 second of this cutscene instead of cutting it anymore, ding, you know. Now when he gets to the drone, even if it's a low 102 pace, he won't get back boosted, and then this increases the odds that he might get another boost, and it'll turn into a 101 pace run, you see? So it's like, that timing method really influenced things to make 101 even easier, because now runs that had no chance, if they were a mid or low 102, you would have for sure got back boosted, it would have been for sure 102, now they have a chance at 101, because you can avoid that back boost in the drone tunnel. Truly brilliant strategy discovered by Grav. He used it effectively and got 101. And again, it's you still wonder if it's a bit of an underplayed level, because since then only 2 more players have got 101. Only Boss, later in 2017 did it. Again, we met up with him at the Eclipse meet, and that whole time Grav had the 101, and he just kept it a secret. And then in early 2018, Tyler Deal got 101, a really strong record for him. He has a couple strong records, and that is certainly one of them. But it's now been over a year, and no one else has Caverns 101. Pretty crazy. Maybe this will inspire someone to get 101 after tonight. There's one more run I have to show. This happened not too long ago. Our old pal Marc Rutzou's time. Remember, just Marc Rutzou, what were you doing, buddy? His 101 got back-ruled. Marc has been going for Silo Agent 59 for over a year, but he took a very brief break, and he played Caverns Agent, attempting to duplicate his 101 from 8 years ago. And in only a couple hours, he got this speed run, and this speed run is so amazing, believe it or not. It's incredible. It's dedicated to our SpeedLore champion, Pilchy2313. Thank you for supporting SpeedLore on Patreon. This run goes out to you, Marc Rutzou, only a couple weeks ago. I loathe having to censor this video heavily for the YouTube. One boost, two boost. You know, no more swearing on YouTube, sadly. Marc swears a lot in this run.
Let's go, dude. This is it. it.
I think that was a six-line ding. This is like the most insane run. This... .30. No back boost.
Are you kidding me, dude? Fucking back boost? I got the wall. Oh! What's up then? This back boost is hard, so yeah, money to the bank. $100 in like 1 hour. Let's go. Yeah, baby. What's up then? What's up then, mother? What's up? Cash to the bank. Let's move on to the next level. Earn some more money. Yeah, I got a back boost in the ending, dude. After the drone, a guard backed me. Typical. But I clutched that shit. I clutched that whole run. I'm so clutched, dude. So cake, dude. This time is a joke. It's like damn 53 for me, to be honest. It's literally damn 53.
I mean, it is interesting that he could cake it. Like, he really caked it. He's pretty much been playing Silo, and he just absolutely caked the 101. And yeah, I guess he got $100. I don't know what the incentive was. Did someone specifically put up $100 for him to duplicate the 101? That's what it seems like. Yeah, I mean, Rutzou is heavily motivated by money. Him getting Silo 112 as an Untied was motivated heavily by money. So Rage Quit said 101 for the next 10. See, so this is where it gets interesting. So Rage Quit is Tyler Deal. You know, a very wealthy eliter. Well, you know, I should. I'm partly memeing, but he puts up a lot of money for incentives. People like having fun. They say, oh, if you get this Untied, whoever gets this Untied will get $50. I'm seeing like Facility 42 has a $75 bounty. And these are just kind of fun incentives for people to have a little extra motivation to go for. So, Rage Quit, Tyler Deal put it up $101 to get Caverns 101 for the next person to get it. But what's interesting is that if we look at Marc's times page, he basically has this 101 acts as proof for his 101 claim in 2011. So it's not like he got a new 101. He's just proving his 8-year-old 101. And now on the rankings, Marc is listed first ahead of everybody else. Even though his 101 was originally backrolled. You know, it's like, is that the rightful thing to do? Or should his 101 be placed, you know, down here after Tyler Deals? Should he be the 12th? Should he be credited as the 12th person to get 101 or the first person to get 101? And I don't know if I have an answer to that question. I think it might be subjective. But he certainly did get that 101. Let's take another look at that ding and see where it was, if we can make it out.
go, dude.
I think it was there. I think it was 5.5. Yeah, I'm gonna say 5.5, which is pretty insane. But I mean, that's where we stand today. All these Caverns 101s. Marc, the first person at 101 in 2011. There was proof. I mean, that is kind of fair to say. There was proof of the 101 back then. We know he got it legitimately, even though the time did not meet proof standards, 6 years later, and was back-rolled. So I guess it's reasonable to say that he was the first person at 101 and credit him that way. Although then Tyler deals incentive, the next person to get 101 gets $101. That, the two do conflict, and there's no squaring that circle. One thing that I should have mentioned for sure, that I have to mention before I wrap up, is that Luke's quest for 102, at this point, Luke was playing PAL. He only had the PAL console. And PAL is, again, it's fine for beginners. It's fine to be 50th, 60th place in GoldenEye. It's not going to affect you that badly. But when you're going for, the absolute optimized records, which 102 was back then, PAL probably did have a huge influence. And the PAL, the additional lag, even if it was ever so slight on PAL, is probably what caused Luke to not get 102. If he had NTC at the time, he probably would have got 102 untied. It would have been heroic. It would have been an incredible untied at the time, especially from from Boss. It's kind of expected. He's a top player in that era. But from Luke, that back then, if he got 102 back then, it would have changed the entire course of GoldenEye history. And you almost wonder, would he have had the incentive to come back 7 years later, 5 years later, and then make a run to champion? Maybe he would have been completely satisfied if he got 102 back in the day, and he wouldn't have ever come back, and he would have retired at another point. So yeah, it's really, maybe he would never have left. I mean, it is really crazy when you gaze into the past to wonder how these things might have affected the future of GoldenEye, or how things would have been different if they played out any differently. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a ton of storylines in this episode, and yeah, Luke's quest for 102, and then later return to champion, and Wouter getting late records, and some of my streams, and Grav hoarding the strategy, and it also touches on the 2.x control style thing. So it was a really cool level to look into that way, that's for sure. Is Caverns Agent 1 minute possible? A new untitled record? I think most people would say it is. There is currently a $100 incentive out there for Caverns 1 minute. Becomes $200 if it's live streamed. That's a pretty big incentive. I wonder if Marc would go for it. I think for sure, over the course of the night, we've seen a lot of runs. A lot of the 101s have 3 boosts, is it? This is Grav's. I think it has 3 boosts in total. And I get the box boost is an additional boost. There are so many places you can get boosted. That's what I want to point out. We're going to watch Grav's run once more and point out all the places you can get boosted. There's 1. Here's 2. Okay? And now you can't get boosted again till the top of the spiral. It's hard to know if you can get... You sometimes can get boosted going into here. I'm sure we've seen a run of that tonight. Then you get the box boost is a huge deal now. That's 4. You could get boosted from that guard. That would be 5. You could certainly get boosted from around the corner here to make it 6. Okay, Grav's at 3, and you could certainly get 6. And then you sometimes get boosted through the hut here. Like that. And you sometimes get boosted into the elevator. So that's at least 8 really possible boosts that you could get. And you have to think that if a lot of 101s have 3 boosts, an 8 boost run would be enough for 1 minute? You have to think. So a lot are asking, it is a very natural question to ask, can you self-boost? You have time, you start the level with 5 timed mines. Now, it takes only 10 minutes of experimenting to realize that the timing doesn't work out. If you throw them as you're strafing up the spiral, by the time you could say, oh, I'm going to throw it up here and get a boost when I strafe up there. The timing doesn't work out at all. But there is a method that Randy came up with years ago, where if you do the trick where you're dual wielding 2 different items. So it's like you have to have one ZMG out, you press A twice and shoot, and it locks the left ZMG shooting while you switch weapons again. You have the timed mines now. There is this strat where you can throw mines on the floor or the wall and boost by shooting those mines out. That's one additional boost. Could that be more useful? Could you get more than one boost that way? Could it be refined? I would say from my experience right now that does not look like it would be effective, but who knows? Maybe as time goes on and things get more and more optimized and things get looked at from different eyes, it might come into play. But I saw Karl say earlier that it is certainly possible to get 7 boosts. That's like undeniably true. 7 boosts is 100%. Given that people have got 101 with 3 boosts, 1 minute is possible for sure. Who will be the one to get 1 minute and write the next chapter of history for Caverns Agent? Only time will tell. So there, my friends, is the story of Caverns Agent. I hope you enjoyed hearing about these epic tales of speedrunning legends. And I mean, really, this episode did feature a lot of insights into various important moments and characters in GoldenEye speedrunning history. I want to give a big thanks to the SpeedLore legends for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys. Your support is truly amazing. As is the support of everyone on Patreon. Patreon.com/SpeedLore. I'm thinking next month I might actually make a poll of a few levels and let the patrons decide which stage to cover. So if you want to be a part of that, check out SpeedLore on Patreon. And yeah, I mean, if you've somehow made it this far and you haven't realized you're watching on a new YouTube channel, yes, this channel is just for SpeedLore. All the new SpeedLore episodes will be uploaded here, and I'll have playlists of the old ones as well, so please subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I'll be working on setting up everything and making it look nice in the near future. So there you have it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back next month with more SpeedLore. Until then, stay true, my friends, and I'll see you in the next stream or video. Good night.